So to come back to Windchill, and I guess what we discussed in last week's webinar around PLM and the packaging. So sorry, PDM and the packaging. We were looking at data management, managing CAD and documents and things like that. So last week we'll look at sort of the people who are inside PLM, most of the time, all the time. Core PDM through base. We talked about some of the capabilities you get with advanced and some of the other add-ons to that. But what we're talking about from a packaging perspective in today's webinar is really this sort of non-expert PLM users. So these are the people that have ThingWorx Navigate packages. So the idea of ThingWorx Navigate, it's really, it's a portal into Windchill. Okay, so the beauty of that is, there's no Windchill upgrade or system, rip and replace. So basically, this is something separate that can display the data from Windchill. Very easy to deploy and adopt. There's minimal training. It's ready out of the box, really designed to let those people like your purchasing person, who only needs to go in every now and then. They don't want the power and complexity of a full PLM system. They just want to go in and find a parts list, grab a drawing, okay, things like that to provide that information to somebody, okay? So that's the idea of ThingWorx Navigate, is to connect into Windchill, but it also has the ability to connect into other systems as well. Okay, so within Navigate, there are two that you might see in the packaging slide. There's ThingWorx Navigate View. So this is a ready-to-use apps designed for viewing information stored inside Windchill, inside your PLM system. So make that information available to everybody, so that we're not talking about exporting data out and storing it in another system here. And then you've got problems of having the same information replicated in 2 or more systems. Where this is a portal to view that single source of truth, live information inside PLM where it's being developed. Okay. So that's Navigate View. There's a bunch of predefined apps that come out of the box, which Imran will show in the demo. But what is the idea of View? Okay, so as I said, it's predefined apps, very, very easy to configure from an administrative perspective. So we can tailor those different apps for different roles. Okay, so there are a bunch of roles out of the box. You can see purchasing here on the screen up here. So the idea is we can say, okay, well, all of these different apps, whether it's view a drawing, view a parts list, we can say whether people in this role should have access to those apps and what should they be able to do while they're in that app. So it's very quick and easy to configure as the administrator to define what they can and can't do. Okay, so the idea of that is to give you that role-specific behavior. Okay, so these groups can have access to a different subset and also see different information inside that. So our production people, they might need to view design files, they might need to view drawings, okay, but it's pre-configured so they can only view released items, they can only see PDF formats, okay, whereas someone from purchasing, they might need to see a bit more than that. They might need to see part properties as well as view the drawings. They don't need to see the design files, but they don't need to view documents and view structured views, okay? So for those purchasing people, they might also have additional information they can see, make, buy columns, suppliers, quantities, things like that, okay? So that's the idea of being able to define and tailor these apps to the specific roles that you have within your organization to view that information. All right, so that's a little bit of an introduction to ThingWorx and the View app. So what I'm going to do now is hand over to Imran, and he's going to run us through a bit of a demo so you can see what these apps look like. So I'll just make him the presenter, and over to you, Imran.
Thanks, Alan. Hi, everyone. So hopefully you guys can see my screen now. So this is ThingWorx Navigate. So as Alan mentioned previously, we have some out-of-the-box default apps, which are tailored depending on this role. So here I'm acting as Mike, the manufacturing engineer, and he has access to these select applications as defined by the administrator. So we'll show a little bit about configuring that later on, but for now, let's jump into the view part structure. So if I'm Mike and I need to search up any sort of product or part that I have, I can simply type it in. It's going to generate some of my options based on what I've inputted. I'm going to select the part I want. So right off the bat, we can see we have the visualization. So this is giving us access All our standard orientations and views, as you normally would expect. We have our default views, the ability to hide and show components. We can also drag them out. So we can pull apart this structure, kind of get a bit more information. We have that same ability to zoom in, rotate, and so on. Clicking on any sort of component will highlight it in the part structure and vice versa. It will also give us this little pop-up window. So we can jump to the part itself. We can also open up this part in Windchill. So we have that direct link. The other advantage is the ability to export, so CSV and then Excel formatted, so we can generate our part structure to view outside of it, or if we have to pass this on to some sort of supplier or manufacturer. We have the ability to look at the parts list. So these columns are all customizable and defined by the administrator again. Here we can see we have all the part numbers, description and name, release dates, and so on. We have the ability to see if any part has a drawing file attached to it, and we can simply click on that to open it up. The idea here is that we can jump to different apps without having to go back to the home screen by simply clicking on the relevant application. Here's the additional attributes, so pulling in that data from Windchill, we can populate this and customize it as need be. We also have the ability to jump into Creo View. So here we can see that's the same assembly we were looking at previously, but we have all that functionality of Creo View now. If I wanted to, say, take a measurement, I might zoom in on this front hook, and I might just want to double check, say, this diameter. I can easily do that. So you can pick apart, get kind of the information you're after, and then go from there easily. We also have the ability to view the drawing file for this assembly. So we can zoom in, we can inspect it. It's just like a standard PDF. We have our bill of materials and so on. And then the ability to print and so forth, download. And last but not least, we have the design files. So when configured, design files can be generated by Windchill and when a part reaches a specific lifecycle stage. So as we're incrementing it, refining it, designing it within Windchill, if we reach our released stage of our lifecycle, then we can automatically generate these corresponding the parts and files. Okay, so I'll just jump back out. The other thing I want to highlight, if we click, say, View Drawing, and then we search any sort of specific part, in this case, something that contains information. So where this is the same part that Alan showed previously in the webinars from last week. We can see that this part is still in work. We have to make some minor adjustments to it in terms of formatting. But we can also look at the visualization, pulling on the orientation, and we can also see that this has that model base definition in there. So that kind of information is also accessible within ThingWorx Navigate. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to switch over from Mike to the purchasing department. We'll have a look at what Phil has access to. So right off the bat, we can see that his homepage is a lot different. So it's customized, like Alan mentioned, to fit his specific needs. So he might not need access to all that other information. In his case, he might want to view certain documentation. So we might have a scenario where we're looking for documentation. We don't actually know what the name of that document is. So we can use something called a wildcard search. So making sure we select the appropriate save search filter. In this case, I've selected that. And just use an asterisk, I'll do my wildcard search. I can easily see, based on the viewables, the document I want to select. So that's going to pull up that information. I can look at it, review it as need be. I can also access the information in Windchill. So, the standard Windchill format. We can look at the content. We see that this does have a website attachment to it, and that's shown there in ThingWorx Navigate. So you can click on that as you would in Windchill, and access that same information. So another scenario we might have, if we're looking at some sort of document structure, in this case, we'll use some MSDS information. We'll do our same wildcard search. We'll highlight the top level assembly, and here we can see we have the entire part structure. So we can easily navigate from the master document to the sub documents and then all the relevant documents associated with that. Simply clicking on any part or any document, we can pull up this additional information. We can jump to that document itself, view it in Windchill, or open up the document entirely. And here we can just simply access that information easily. The other handy thing we have is the ability to download drawing bundles. So as part of purchasing, we might encounter some sort of purchase order, has a bunch of documents included, which we have to give this information to a supplier, manufacturer, some sort of external party, or even someone within the organization. We can simply dump those numbers in, hit generate, and then those files are going to be generated for us. So we can see this zip file has been created, download that, open it up as you would in Windows Explorer. And we can also see some previews. We're going to open up that document itself, just to double check and verify that we're sending out the right information. So it's quick and easy. It's pulling all that information from Windchill and goes back to that single source of truth. We're not looking for information in multiple areas. It's all in the one location. Okay, so that's a bit about the out-of-the-box type scenarios that ThingWorx Navigate provides. We'll jump over to the administration. We're going to look at kind of the configurability of this system. So here we can see this is the full out-of-the-box default applications that you have. So everything that was seen from the manufacturing and purchasing. We also have change requests and then some custom apps. So if we want to tailor our apps to specific users' needs, we can simply just jump in. We have the ability to choose whether manufacturing, purchasing, which are the ones we were looking at. Here we can easily just toggle those off, hit save, and then our view for the manufacturing team is now not going to have access to that Creo viewability or any sort of additional attributes. What we can also do is we can jump into specific applications themselves and we can modify them individually. So if I wanted to go into purchasing, should I say manufacturing, and we saw the parts list previously and it had all these columns, maybe we don't want to show the quantity or we don't want to show the drawing file, we can simply remove it, hit save, and then it will no longer show under that manufacturing view. So everything is very easy to customize and it just really depends on the user needs and what you want to give depending on the role that you choose. So I'll hand it back to Alan and he can go on and explain some of the other features of ThingWorx.